we thought it'd be fun to play a little game because SEC Media Days is coming up next week. And that game is, if you were a media reporter, what are a couple of questions you would have for any of the coaches or players there?
Real
And
fast.
yeah, and also don't box yourself in, Mark. What else would you like to
Yeah,
have?
don't mark yourself in.
Yeah. No, one thing. If you're listening, we wanted to get credentials for
Right.
SEC Media Day and try to pull it off. And, just film everything we did as we went and make a whole thing of it. We'd fly Patrick out. It would be great. And we genuinely have no idea how. The website is not clear. We are not media savants at this. We're clueless. And so if you know how, reach out and you'll be the program guy of the week for sure. Guy or gal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Love that.
Good plug.
Matt, let's start with you. What are some questions you would have for a player or coach at SEC Media Day?
Just go one at a time.
Yeah, I'll do one at a time. I'll do player first.
Yeah.
Because I assume the main guy is going to be there, like a Billy Bowman, a Danny Stutzman, like the leaders of the team and those senior, especially the senior leadership coming in. So my first question would be, since the SEC schedule came out, excluding Texas, what game would they be most forward to playing to, either home or away? Because I know when this schedule first came out, I'm sure it's very exciting to see who's obviously coming into Norman, but also the games they're going to have to play on the road. For instance, going to LSU to Baton Rouge, right? That's a iconic college football stadium. Most likely could be a night game. Could have college game day, depending on where both teams are at. So really would like to hear where the players would feel or what they're most looking forward to game-wise heading into this year.
Question real quick. We haven't announced the 4 players who are taking the media day, have we?
Not that I've seen.
Do you think we bring Jackson Arnold?
I would assume so.
I thought you said, okay, hold on. Yes, Oklahoma has.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
Give me a second. I will pull that up.
No
Someone
worries.
else go while I pull
Ryan,
that
go
up.
ahead.
Yeah. Let's go players first. I think the one thing that I'm most curious about, and I would have this question for both. So, but I'll think of another before we go to the next one. I would like to know, like, what is the biggest difference that they've seen across the spring and the summer with both of our new coordinators and how they've impacted practice, how they've impacted strategy, how they've impacted even just like culture and like how they feel about it. I'm because those are kind of two of the biggest changes that we've had from last year. And I'm interested to see how that's impacted like the players, but also the other coaches.
So it's Brent Venables, Jackson Arnold, Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman. Those are the 4
look at me, huh?
representatives that are coming, right? Good stuff.
I mean, that makes
Matt
the
might
most
have known.
sense.
Matt might have known and just didn't speak up. That's crazy. Anyway, I really like that one a lot, Ryan, because it gets to, okay, completely new voices. Well, not completely new with Seth Luttrell, but new voices are going to be calling the shots on both sides here. What does that mean to you? Like how does that change what you do? And Jackson Arnold learned the offense under Jeff Levy last year, right? So he'd be a great person to speak that into existence. Stutzman and Billy Bowman have been with now 3 defensive coordinators. They would be excellent,
Uh-oh.
Mark has frozen, and we have potentially lost Mark. We'll give him about 3 more seconds before I go ahead and chime in. My player who I would ask a question to would be Jackson Arnold. During the bowl game, we saw a lot of great things from Jackson, but one of his maybe weaknesses during the game was the game might have been a little too quick for him. We saw a lot of interceptions. What has he done in the offseason to prepare for a quick offense, or have they slowed it down? What have they done to make Jackson feel more comfortable coming into the SEC? That's probably what I would ask him.
Yeah. Great question. Great question. So if I'm going to flip it to the other side and ask the coaches and ask VV, I would really want to know really to get his insight about maybe some surprises that he's seen from spring and fall camp heading into summer, maybe some players that we don't necessarily know about, but that they're seeing already a big impact during those practices and could have an impact on the year upcoming, whether that be one offensive player, one defensive player. I'd like to hear some of the guys maybe we haven't heard about that's really causing a nice spring in their step and that could potentially have some big playing time in this upcoming year. I'd like to hear maybe one or two names on either side of the ball that OU fans should be looking out for.
Yeah, it's
I
a good
gotta-
point. I feel like we've been a bit more open about that in the past than we have this year after the spring game. There wasn't that, then both sides of the ball weren't pointing out Gavin Freeman and things like that. So that's a really interesting question again. And I hope, part of me hopes that change is going to the pressers starting in the season. Ryan?
Yeah, my question for the coaches is a question that I like to ask when I'm doing an interview at work. And it's like, what scares you? Like, what scares you about like this upcoming year? It's so new, so many changes. Like, what are you scared of? And I think that I don't know how you would answer that, because I think it's an interesting question, and that's why I always like to ask it, because it throws people off a little bit. But it's like, I feel like BV's the type who would be like, okay, this is like brand new for us, and like we're figuring things out as we go and we're improving, but we're still not there yet. And he'd be really honest about that. But I think I'd like to see that transparency a little bit, because we didn't have that in the previous coaching staff. So throw a little
curveball. Yeah, that was
curveball at him.
That
Great
would
question.
be a curveball.
Great-
Also,
great
a
question.
brutal interview question, right?
It's
Yeah,
the best.
that is
though.
tough.
It's
I
the
wouldn't even know
best.
how to answer
Like,
it.
you always should ask that though. If you're interviewing somebody, it's like, what scares you about this role? And it's
Yeah.
like, boom. It's like, can they answer it? It's great.
Yeah, that's why you make the big bucks, man.
Oh,
You know
shut
what I'm
up.
saying?
Anyways, on that though, I think BV would either give you like an extremely honest answer to that,
No, it'd be like
or he
20
would
minutes.
twist it.
It'd be
Yeah,
20
it'd be a
minutes,
20-minute honest
I-
answer, or he'd
or-
twist it and be
Or
pretty
he'd
quick.
deflect. But I
Yeah.
don't think he would deflect.
No,
Like, I think Lincoln
no,
Riley
no.
would like deflect that question, right? And I
Sure,
think
yeah,
like
yeah.
BV would be like, you know what? I'm gonna talk about this. And
Yeah.
like he'd talk about like, how the team, like how they've come together as a family and all of this stuff, and that they're scared that they're maybe not quite there yet. But they're getting there and they need to get out on the field. And I think it'd be a great answer probably, because he historically has great answers. But I do think it would kind of throw him a curveball. We can't let him be bored up there
That's right.
answering questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotta throw them a little something.
I'm going to take it in a little different of a direction. I'm going to
I
go
like
to a
it.
different booth in this SEC Media Day, to Sarkisian. And I'm going to ask him, knowing that he only has one more win during his tenure at Texas than Tom Herman did, is he concerned about job security going into the SEC and potentially not going more than 8-4 this season? What do you think he'd answer that?
No, he's not concerned. Oh, that would be. I think that's how he would answer it.
Oh man, Pat, if you were there and you asked that, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself. Man, that'd be great. That'd be great. Unfortunately,
You would
more
see
than
Gann
us.
hiding
Yeah.
in the background, just like.
yeah, unfortunately, Texas has a much easier schedule than OU this year, but
They do.
they do. Well, guys,
Yeah.
wow.
Would
If
you
only
guys
Mark
go
was
over to-
here.
Yeah, I know. Wish Mark was here too. Would you guys go to any other booths besides OU's to ask a question to someone else, player or coach?
Would you go to Tennessee's, Patrick?
I would definitely ask Heupel a question about how he feels being the coach for Tennessee during Oklahoma's first SEC opener game, and like what Oklahoma means to him, and if he's just like reminiscing on anything, how he thinks that's going to be. I'd just like to
Hates
hear his
us.
overall thoughts.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely more of a soft spot in our heart than he hates us. in his
Yeah,
heart.
no, he doesn't hate us. It's just, it's more
I get it.
complicated than just like a,
Yeah.
a love relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who else would I go to? I think
would
I would like
definitely-
I would maybe go to Mississippi, because I just would like to see Lane Kiffin like do his thing. So I don't know if I have like a question for him, but I just like would like to observe. So,
Matt?
Yeah, I would go over to the Alabama SEC Media Day, and new head coach Kalen DeBoer, who came over from Washington, what his expectation his first year after trying to come behind one of, if not the best college head football coach in Nick Saban, and get his insight on how he's changing the culture, really to what we talked about earlier, asking BV, the shifts, and all the coaching changes. I mean, you're talking about taking over a team that pretty much had a dynasty in winning, and especially national championships. So love to hear how DeBoer is handling that pressure and his expectation as the number one or the first season of a new Alabama regime.
Love that. Mark, welcome back. We did
Welcome back, Mark.
we did what would you ask a player on OU? What would you ask a coach or Brent Venables? And then if you would wander over to a different booth to find a player or a coach, what booth would you wander over to?
Yeah, so mine is a little OU centric. I'm gonna go with the last. I'm gonna start with the last one, but I'm gonna walk up to Josh Heupel's booth, and
Same.
we all know that there's
That's what Pat said.
there's a lot of, well, I don't know Pat's question, so I'm interested in this. We all know that there was a lot of animosity in the way that he left, right? Bob sends him out to pasture a little bit and brings in Lincoln Riley, who's incredibly successful as offensive coordinator, and parlays it into a head coaching gig. And you know what? If Josh Heupel was a little bit more successful at Oklahoma, you have to think he would have been the guy, right? And with all of that in mind, and knowing he probably has all of that intrinsically built in, you just go up to him and say, how do you get your team ready for a game that might be just another game for them, but has such built-in emotions and expectations and thoughts for you? Because while a lot of things change, the field and the stadium and the locker rooms sort of remain the same. You know, campus is the same. He has taken the ride from that airport to that campus more times than, you know, any non-player, non-longtime coach ever, right? Like that's just the way that it goes. And I'd be very interested to see what he would, I mean, you know, you'd have to give him real truth serum, right? You'd get a BS answer. But if it was a real answer, I'd be very interested to see what he had to say there. Pat, what was your question?
Pretty similar.
Pretty much the same
Pretty
thing.
similar.
You just worded it a lot better and nicer.
More eloquently.
More
Nicer.
eloquently. More eloquently is what the word.
how
I
are
was
He
you
was
looking
a
for.
little bit more direct.
Yeah, it
he
was
was
more
just
direct,
like-
just like about your feelings.
It's like,
and I didn't
hey,
bring
how
in
do you
like
feel that OU's
Yeah.
are your first SEC opener or your SEC opener this year?
and I didn't bring up any of the potential bad animosity
right,
either.
Right.
Where that, you know, should be part of the question.
I guess, am I still like just the last
Yep, you're
person to
going,
go?
baby.
Everybody's
All right, cool.
everybody's
All right,
gone.
and let's go player then. And we know the three players. I announced them earlier. I want to go straight to Jackson Arnold, and I want to ask him, name me a receiver and a back that we're not thinking about that is going to be like
Great
a guy
question.
on this team.
Yeah.
And I mean, I imagine he'd list like 4 or 5, but again, with truth serum, who's the guy under the radar? Because it might be Andrell Anthony, man. He had such a rapport with Dylan Gabriel. And if he's getting first team reps with Jackson Arnold, it's not hard to see why he would get a rapport with Jackson Arnold, right? We just haven't been able to see that because he wasn't in spring ball. I'd be interested to see what he would say to that. I'd be interested in the running back question. I imagine it's Sam Franklin, the UTEP transfer that I've mentioned several times before, led the spring game in rushing. But I think the answer to that would be very illuminating to us as fans. What do we think about that?
Yeah.
And what did you guys say? Because I'm really interested.
When you said that, I thought, you know, Jackson would actually talk about younger players we hadn't heard of yet, not necessarily like transfers or past transfers. So I would hope he brings up Caleb Hicks.
Interesting. Right. Sophomore, or I guess
Yeah.
redshirt freshman with just more muscle than anything else.
Yeah,
My
Mark,
main-
I-
my
Mark,
question
I had a
was,
similar question. Yeah.
You guys are so fun.
Go
Ryan.
Matthew has
Well,
left
you
to be seen.
heard my question. It was the player one was around the coordinators.
Oh, that's right. It was great. And
Mhm.
then Matt, I heard yours too, right?
Don't think so, but mine was very similar. I would ask BV to name some surprises that he's seen in spring and fall camp that we might not be hearing about on both sides of the ball. So very similar to what you asked.
That's really good. And I would just extend the same question that I ask Jackson to Brent Venables, because, or maybe maybe I asked something more similar to what you asked Hypel. Like, you've been in these games, you've been in national championship games. Your players have not. How do you prepare them for in Death Valley against LSU? And everyone's expecting LSU to be good this year, right? What do you do to bring it up a notch from how you prepared for going to Cincinnati? And you can act like you don't, but you're playing a different team in a different environment. So something has to change, or you really got to explain how you only put up so many points against Cincinnati last season.
Yeah, makes sense.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being